I'll join. And repeat after me. I take refuge in the Buddha. I take refuge in the Buddha. I take refuge in the Dharma. I take refuge in the Dharma. I take refuge in the Sangha. I take refuge in the Sangha. Keeping the palms joined. Palms down. All right, good evening, everybody. Nice to see you all here. Thank you for showing up. Anyone here for the first time? As you're here for the first time, what brings you here?
Dealing with health issues, making you feel ungrounded.
Yeah, health can get challenging. When physical health tends to fail us, what follows? Emotional and mental health. So yeah, glad you're here. Sorry for your health issues. What else? First time here, a couple other hands. Yeah.
I was brought to Deer Park this past weekend, and it was just extremely lovely. So I just wanted to explore more.
Yeah, that was your first time going, I take it?
Yes.
Can you expand on that? I mean, lovely kind of sums it up, but what'd you learn about yourself?
It felt more like there was a connection between things that I felt and then what was brought into the space.
Yeah.
Haven't been around many organized groups that are really about, it felt just very practical.
Yeah.
It's very grounded in ways of how we can show up. And so those are things that I very much identify with. So put some gasoline on that fire.
Yeah, beautiful. Yeah, Deer Park is very organized. We're very unorganized, so if you came here looking for organization, you're going to find yourself back at Deer Park, which is also great. But yeah, Deer Park Monastery, for those who are not familiar with it, we're really spoiled here in San Diego. I say this, and I'm not kidding, there's probably 30 to 40 Buddhist temples within the 10, 15-mile radius of where we are right now. Two of the most well-known, famous monasteries and teachers, kind of the modern day, are sitting 45 minutes north of us, Deer Park being one of them, up in Escondido, and at a forest monastery, Valley Center, run by Thanissaro Bhikkhu Ajahn Jeff, who's been a Thai forest monk for 40 years. Deer Park, which was founded by Thich Nhat Hanh, a village in France. Very much, Thich Nhat Hanh really kind of coined a phrase, I talk about this often, but engaged Buddhism, which is really how do we take this Buddhist practice, these teachings of loving kindness and compassion and joy and equanimity and working with greed and anger and ignorance and all these types of things. How do we take that, but then engage in the world and bring it into community? Because that's really what this practice for me is all about. And so Deer Park is a place that just embodies that in and out. So if y'all ever get a chance to go to Deer Park or Meta Forest Monastery, I highly recommend it. They're both, are you brand new to Buddhist stuff? Is it all pretty new to you?
Yeah, brand new. I've heard of things, I've seen little bits here and there, but never really dove into the practice. So.
Yeah, definitely when you get a chance, Meta Forest Monastery, which is also up there in Valley Center, not far from Escondido. It's cool to see in comparison the way two Buddhist traditions practice completely differently. So you go to Deer Park, and I always describe it as warm and fuzzy and engaging and welcoming, and all the monks and nuns, the brothers and sisters, they're smiling and they're happy and they're helping you. Now imagine the same beautiful, intense Buddhist practice, but the exact opposite of that. And that's metaphors. You have monks living their lives, and they're happy you're there, but they're not there to cater to you. They're just there living their life, and you get to go see what is it like for monks to live the same way that Buddha lived 2,500 years ago. So also another really beautiful experience. So we are, like I said, kind of spoiled here in San Diego. Anyone else first time want to share why they're here? Yeah, just see a hand. Yeah.
I just wanted to ground myself and calm down my nervous system.
Calm down your nervous system. Anyone else in here trying to calm down their nervous system?
Reduce the chatter.
Reduce the chatter?
Yes.
Yeah. Anyone else? Yeah.
I'm a family. My family's been coming here for a number of years now. I've always heard about it, but I've never been. Now we can do both.
Nice. Well, glad you're here. People tend to show up whenever is the right time for them to show up, So glad you're here. All right, so we'll start with a meditation practice. For those who are joining virtually, welcome, glad you're here. Feel free to say hello. It's the chat box somewhere on your screen. A couple things to tell you before we begin. Nothing's going to happen to you. You're not going to float away. You're not going to have any mystical, magical experiences. The mind that races all day long is not going to shut off. Don't judge your practice, meaning don't ask yourself, is this working or not working? Are you doing it right or wrong? We're just going to sit, we're going to breathe. You'll hear sounds inside the room, sounds outside. This is life. Life is filled with chaos, and this practice is learning to get quiet and still within all of the chaos. Posture, you just want to be comfortable. If you are in a cushion, often it helps slide into the front third, pushing the stomach forward. Allows the back to straighten. If you're on a bench or chair, same thing, however you're seated. Just try to sit up straight, relaxing the shoulders, hands can be on the knees or lap, whatever's comfortable. If you need to move, simply move. Movement doesn't make you a bad meditator, just means you need to move. And if you are brand new, it's important to understand that your mind will not shut off. It will not go blank. You will not think nothing. Your mind will continue to race just as much as it always does. I'll say things periodically to either wake you up because you've fallen asleep, or remind you that you're lost in thought and bring you back to present moment. Most important, do not expect anything. And starting with the eyes closed if comfortable, or slightly open. Mouth is open or closed. We'll start with taking 3 deep breaths slowly. And eventually, we'll settle into a natural rhythm of the breath. Noticing the mind as it wanders, jumping from thought to thought. Start with gently guiding the attention, focus to the stomach or chest. Breathing in, feel them rise. Breathing out, they fall. Simply continue this practice, observing sensation of breath. Expecting nothing but to sit and breathe. And as the mind wanders, lost in thought, recognize it. Release that thought. Return attention, focus to the breath. Breathing in, follow breath in. Breathing out, follow breath out. Learning to be comfortable in stillness, in quiet. Just sitting, breathing. Letting go of expectations. Letting go of judgments from your practice. Just sitting, breathing. And with the body still, rested, and the speech quiet, aware of all sounds, and the mind learning to settle. Know what it's like to just sit and breathe. Knowing with each breath, there's nothing else to do. Nowhere else to go. And no one else to be. Everything beautiful, exactly as it is. Sitting breathing. Once again, taking 3 deep breaths, slowly. And when ready, slowly open the eyes. Slowly beginning to move. And most important, the practice of meditation is to recognize how you feel now, immediately after. Compare this to how you typically feel throughout your day. Recognize the difference, if there is one. Ask yourselves how you prefer to feel every day for the rest of your life. And realize how you feel now, if it's quiet, calm, and still, or a busy mind, racing mind. Whatever you're sitting with at this moment, it's nothing to do with anything I said. It's nothing to do with how you sit, the hands across the legs. It's nothing to do with the sounds around us or anything else for that matter. It has everything to do with your own mind and your own mind's reaction to an external situation. This is what the Buddha called pratitya samuppada, means dependent origination. This is the basis of the Buddha's awakening. The word Buddha simply means awaken. He was a human being, no different than any one of us, who began to understand why he suffered, why he got angry, sad, depressed, stressed, anxious. He began to understand the causal relationship of all phenomena. What that means, very simply, for all of us, regardless of where you come from or what you believe in or where you think you're going, your whole life is filled with things that happen. You react. More stuff happens, more reactions. That's it. That's what we get. This practice is simply learning what it's like to respond to something quietly, peacefully, still. Because for most of us, the way you responded to the last 20 minutes is quite different from how you respond to every other 20-minute period of your day. And so all we're working on is closing the gap to where the way you feel now is closer to how you feel always. Just as driven, motivated, productive, successful, whatever that means to you in your respective lives. But with a mind that's steady, clear, focused, distracted by nothing, disturbed by no one. It's not an easy practice. It's not necessarily fun. It's not an escape, as often people think it is. This is direct perception into the present moment. And very often, as we know all too well, the present moment is filled with conflict, chaos, difficulties, challenges. This practice is not trying to escape from any of that. which is what most people do for a majority of their lives. Running. This practice is learning to be with life as it arises. Pleasant or unpleasant. Becoming aware of everything you think, everything you say, and everything you do in each moment. We spend so much time trying to fix, change, control, manipulate everything and everyone around us. And this practice is working on changing our mind and our reaction to the world around us. Life is filled with chaos. Always has been. Always will be. That's just the way things go. Just because the world's a mess doesn't mean your mind has to be. And while many of us are spending so much time worried about everything else, your mental, emotional health is struggling. Take care of you. That's what this practice is. Hey Josh, will you check out? Thank you. Or Morgan, wherever you are. Both of you. Morgan, will you go with him, please? Thank you. So learn to take care of your mind. This practice is not about ignoring what's going on in your life or the life of those around you. It's becoming aware fully and engaging in the world with love and kindness and compassion. Because in a world that's filled with anger, the last thing it needs is more anger. So take care of yourself. And do not stop fighting for a kinder, gentler, more peaceful world. But do it not from hatred and anger, from love and compassion. That's what the Buddha was teaching. That's what Thich Nhat Hanh was teaching. To engage in the world with love and kindness and compassion and understanding and forgiveness. And this is really difficult to do when you think you're right. Anyone in here think they're right? Anyone in here think their views are correct and that everybody else is wrong? It's amazing to sit with so many people who have all the answers to everything and are so wise and brilliant. Thank you for honoring me with your presence. So I'm going to pause right there. For me, I always really prefer to respond to questions, meditation, Buddhist practice, anything you're sitting with. And to those who are joining virtually, again, welcome. Feel free to say hello. There's a chat box on your screen somewhere. If you have any questions, you can put them there. I'll do my best to respond. And we'll use the rest of our brief time this evening for any questions.
I know you probably won't have the answer to this, but I have, I'm pretty patient. I've learned, or getting better at it. But whenever I try to meditate, why is it that all of the minute things that I need to do start rushing in? Like that sweater that I haven't worn over 2 months because it's been warm that I forgot to stitch suddenly come to the forefront.
Yeah. So the question, to paraphrase those who didn't hear it, was you started out by saying, I won't have an answer to this, but, and then you prefaced it by sharing with all of us how patient you've become in your 3 months of this practice. That was my sarcasm. And then you shared that because of your patience, which is, but you don't understand why in your meditation, all the minute things that are popping up into your head, like things you have to stitch. Why is that happening, right? So a couple things. Yes, normally I don't give any answers, but my ego really wants to give you an answer since you said, I wouldn't have an answer. But here's the thing. The second thing is, patience has, I get it. You're working on patience. It's been your question for the last 3 weeks, which is beautiful, and you're getting better at it. You're challenged every day. You have opportunities to practice patience. But my suggestion is to kind of abandon the idea of thinking you're becoming patient. Just practice patience every day. Because just when you think you've got it, you're going to be thrown off the rails with something else. And then you're going to feel like, oh no, you have failed it. Because your question has nothing to do with patience, but I'm talking about patience first because you preface that almost as if you're like, okay, I got the patient things down.
No, but it kind of does go back to patience.
It doesn't, but hang on. The patience thing, keep practicing every day because you know, right, when you think you've got it, life's going to happen, and then all of a sudden you're going to be challenged with something which forces you to be patient, and then you might not be as patient, and then you're going to feel, as I'm starting to say, like you failed at patience, and you almost feel like you've elevated yourself to some level of understanding of patience, and then when you lack patience, you're going to be pretty hard on yourself. Does that make sense? So just it's beautiful that you're practicing patience and that you're aware of your patience and that you were struggling with it and you're getting better at it. Just keep practicing that every day. The third thing about the meditation practice and the things that pop into your head, it really has nothing to do with patience. What that has to do with is the inability to train the mind to be present. This is what meditation is about. Most people have it, and I'll say this for those who are maybe brand new, if 100 people lead you in meditation, they're going to lead you 100 different ways. None of them are necessarily right or wrong, good or bad, they're all different. Different Buddhist practices with meditation, different spiritual practices, different religious practices, different spiritual practices. There are thousands of meditation practices out there. So I'm not suggesting any is right or wrong or good or bad. If they tell you to go do bad stuff, then you probably want to, stop doing that one. But for the most part, they're different types, right? And so for me, from the Buddhist perspective, I can share what I was trained, what I was learned with meditation, which is observation and awareness of sensation of breath. Anapanasati Sutta, the Buddhist said, when breathing in and taking a short breath, know you're breathing in and taking a short breath. Breathing out, taking a long breath, know you're breathing out, taking a long breath. It was simple observation and awareness of sensation of breath. That was it. Now, why do you think most people come to meditation? There were a couple things. To what? To
Quiet the mind.
quiet the mind. Thanks for summarizing everything I was about to go get. To quiet the mind. This practice isn't about quieting the mind. This is the biggest mistake people make. They think, I'm going to quiet the mind. I've been doing this practice 30 years. Every single day for the last 22 years. My mind has never gone quiet.
It's more about being in the present moment. Correct?
It will never go correct. It will never go quiet. I'm not trying to get it to be quiet. What I'm working on is, let me give you an example, right? So for those who haven't heard this, breath in, breath out. Thought arises, recognize it. Let's say it's hunger. Release that thought back to the breath. Half a second to 2 seconds later, next thought arises. Hunger. Release that thought back to the breath. Next thought, hunger, release, back to the breath. That may repeat for 20 minutes straight. What I'm working on is recognizing the thought of hunger, releasing it, coming back to the breath, right? Staying present. What I don't want to do, hunger. I'm hungry. This is what I'm thinking now. I'm hungry. I want to eat. I want a burrito. I'm going to go to Pokies. I want chips. I want sauce. I want water. Next thing you know, from 5 minutes of thinking about hunger and a burrito, now I'm hungrier than I was 5 minutes ago. Miserable, right? You ever been angry about something for 5 or 20 years? When did that thing happen? 5 years or 20 years ago? All we're working on in meditation, we're not trying to quiet the mind. We're not trying to stop the mind. We're not trying to empty the mind. We're working on watching, observing, becoming, and so many different Buddhist teachers will say it different ways, but becoming observers of your thoughts. You can observe, thought arises. There's a project I need to do. I need to stitch, or I need to this, and then come back to the breath. And then the thought will arise again, and then you come back to the breath. You're working on anchoring sensation of breath. We use the breath. It's always there. You don't have the breath. You don't have to worry about meditation anymore. And it's here. It's present. You don't need candles. You don't need incense. You don't need bells. You don't need whistles. You don't need a bunch of stuff. You just need a crazy mind and your breath. That's it. Now, when our mind wanders to the past, anger, sadness, depression. Our mind wanders to the future, stress, anxiety, fear, worry, panic. So meditation is a concentration and focus on the present moment. You could use the breath, you could use a bottle of water, you could use a shoe, it doesn't matter. But if you focus on the present moment, What are you not focused on? Everything else. So when you focus on everything else, how does that tend to make you feel? Stressed out, anxious, overwhelmed. So your thoughts are going to continue to arise. You don't have to just jump on them like, airplane style or train and run with them. Make sense?
Yes.
Like my answer. Other questions?
Jeff, is that the same thing with anger or this may be a false dichotomy? If it is, I apologize. Is the Buddhist teaching eventually, if you practice compassion enough constantly for everyone and everything in yourself, that anger will disappear and you won't feel it?
So the question around anger and if you practice this compassion enough, to self and everyone, will anger disappear? So let me back up just to put it in context a little bit. For those who are maybe brand new to Buddhism, the very first thing the Buddha taught, as you know, 4 noble truths. Right? First thing he said was, first noble truth, life is dukkha. Translates to suffering. Very heavy, not a great translation of the word dukkha. Doesn't mean all of life sucks. It just means that we're going to experience tremendous suffering in our lives. We're also going to experience small moments of suffering in our lives. Right? Your coffee wasn't made the right way. You didn't have enough pumps of matcha. It doesn't. Your sandwich wasn't prepared properly, you're stuck in traffic, little things like that. Not the end of the world. And we have trauma, we have death, we have loss, we have heavy experiences that are a big deal. So our entire life, as the Buddha was teaching, is filled with those moments, from simple little, things that we'll get over in 5 minutes and we'll forget about tomorrow. There'll be more things, to heavy traumatic stuff. So our life is filled with that. The second thing he says is, what's the cause of suffering? Also known as the 3 poisons: greed, anger, and ignorance. This is what we experience throughout our lives: greed, anger, ignorance. So the Buddha taught to overcome greed, we practice generosity. To overcome anger, we practice compassion. To overcome ignorance, we practice wisdom. The third noble truth is the ending of suffering, liberation from suffering, freedom from suffering, having a pleasant day. And the fourth is the Eightfold Path: correct views, thoughts, speech, action, livelihood, effort, mindfulness, concentration. This is all on Google for free. Stay on the first 2 Google search pages and you're good. But that's the foundation of Buddhist teachings. For 45 years, they say that's what he taught 84,000 different ways. The 4 noble truths. It's that simple. Now the hardest part is, how do we practice this? So your question is around compassion, right? And if we have, as the Buddha taught, that when we have anger, we practice compassion. So your question is, if we practice endless compassion, does anger cease to exist? Yeah. Absolutely. But it's a little bit deeper than that, because even in the way you asked the question was, if we practice compassion, will anger cease to exist? I'm kind of paraphrasing that, but that's in essence what you're saying. But compassion is used as the response to overcome anger. So the problem isn't how do we respond to the anger. It's my kind of metaphor. If we have a headache, we take 2 Advil, but then we'll spend the rest of our lives taking 2 Advil. The question is, why are we getting the headache? Comes back to the question really is, as you've heard me say before, my teacher always said, when you ask questions, don't look for answers, change the question. The real question is, why does that anger keep arising? And the anger keeps arising because we have judgments, we have critiques, we have a dualistic mind that we live in that says me versus you, right versus wrong, good versus bad, self versus other. And so we have a view of how we think everything should be. And when that view is not met, we get angry. This isn't about justifying what your view is. This isn't about your view being right or wrong even. This is about understanding why you're angry. And as the Buddha taught, you're angry because the world is not playing out how you want it to, regardless of whether your view is right or wrong, or whether you think your view is right or wrong. Again, to reference Thich Nhat Hanh, the greatest teaching I ever saw, one of, he said, all views are wrong. Now, when I heard that, I was like, I don't like that, because I'm attached to my view. And what I learned from this teaching was, I am attached to my views. And as long as I'm stuck in my views, what am I not giving an opportunity to arise? Anyone else's views. Every conflict, every argument with a family member, a loved one, a stranger, anyone, every argument, disagreement, conflict comes from opposing views. And as long as we are stuck in our view, there is no room to listen to what anybody else has to say. And again, we often want, I've been doing this a long time, we want to default to, well, yes, my view is right. This teaching is not about the view being right. This teaching is about understanding where anger is coming from. If my view is really strong about one thing and someone else's view is really strong about one thing, I can listen to them, I can understand them, I can have empathy and sympathy and compassion and love and understanding and forgiveness for their views and still disagree with them, and at the same time not have hatred and anger towards them. And again, that's what Thich Nhat Hanh was teaching. So it's why we have the anger is the question. And that's a difficult one to, because it requires us to really kind of acknowledge that we're not always right. And most people don't want to acknowledge that.
Well, just even acknowledging a sense of self that you may not remember actually exists.
Say that again louder, please.
What I was saying was you also have to remind yourself of that sense of self and ego that you may not want to admit to. And I think that that's part of how I can translate some of the dukkha into more positive, forward-thinking approaches and behaviors and actions.
Yeah. No, I mean, that's not some of it. That's all of it. I just didn't, no. I just didn't go to that place with that response. But yes, what it ultimately boils down to is the sense of self, as the Buddha taught non-self. That sense of self in and of itself is an illusion. And from that attachment to the sense of self, we're born, we're given a name, we're given, we're raised a certain way in certain families, certain locations, taught certain things. All of those things begin to just create the matrix in our head. And we think that that's real. So non-self doesn't mean, without getting, too far into this, it doesn't mean that you're not there. It doesn't mean you don't exist. It just means, in essence, the way I perceive and practice non-self, that I exist completely differently from how I perceive myself to exist. And my interpretation of myself is not myself. Other people's interpretations of myself are also not myself. These are all just views and judgments and labels and critiques and likes and dislikes. These are all perceptions. And we have perceptions about everything. And ultimately what the Buddha was teaching with non-self is that there is the true nature of reality, not the reality spoken by the Buddha. He was just a human. He couldn't tell you what reality was. There's reality, and then there's our perception of reality. And we will always operate from our perceptions of reality. What else? Yeah.
How do you overcome the anger you have towards someone you trusted and they lied about who they are?
Yeah, so the question was, how do you overcome anger when it's about someone you trusted and they lied about who they are? So I just preface this by saying you might not like what I'm going to say. Fair enough? Can I continue? Okay. I mean that very seriously because like I said, I've responded to this same question 1,000 times and people don't always like it. The response is exactly the same. All you have done, and I don't mean to minimize what you've done, nor do I mean to make it sound as if what has happened to you is okay. It's not. But all you've done is you've put an example to the exact same thing that I just described. So we can talk about these things loosely. Yes, have compassion for those who've done harm. Have compassion for those who have done whatever it is. And then and that sounds pretty when we're reading some Pema Chodron Dalai Lama book, and it's like, oh yes, have compassion for all beings. And then we apply it to a real life situation, and it goes out the window. And we're like, okay, well that sounds great, but how do I do it? You do it the same way, which is, well, let me start here. And you really might not like this, but have you ever lied to somebody?
Not really.
Say again? You're really not wanting to answer this question. And don't lie to me, because that would, have you ever lied to someone?
Yes.
Yes. Has anyone in this room ever lied to someone? Quick show of hands. Every single person in this room has lied to someone, or they're lying. Now, I did that one because I'm not trying to put you on the spot and I don't want you to feel alone. I want you to realize that everyone has lied to somebody at some point in time for a million different reasons. Whether we felt it was justified or not, whether it was protecting us or someone else or not, whether it was because we were completely angry and miserable and suffering or not, there are a million reasons why people lie and we don't know. Very often when we harm people, have you ever harmed somebody? Yes. We have also all harmed people. When we often lie, when we harm, we are suffering. We are in pain. We are dealing with depression, anger, sadness, trauma, addiction, all of the above, whatever it is. We're dealing with something which led us to lie and harm others, right? I spent the majority of my life doing all of those things. Truly. You would be shocked if I told you the short list of things that I've done, right? I'm not kidding. I'm not just saying that to sound humble. Why did I do those things? Because I was angry and depressed and miserable and sad. That sucked. And so I treated people like crap. Did that make it good and okay and right? No. And when I was that way, did I need more anger and compassion towards me to try to change? No. What did I need? I needed love. I needed compassion. I needed forgiveness. I needed understanding. Does that make what I did right or okay? No. Does that make what, in your situation, what somebody else did to you right and okay? No. But your question is, how do you not have anger? You have compassion for the other person because they wouldn't have done what they did if there was not tremendous suffering and confusion and ignorance and whatever's going on. I don't like details, so I don't need to know details. But whatever was going on, there's a mess there. People who are pleasant and happy and peaceful and just cruising along in life don't do those things, right? There's a story behind all of that. We don't want to hear the story. All we want is to see how it impacted us. My response is not, and I want to drive this home for you or anybody, is not to justify or excuse whatever happened. But your question wasn't about that. Your question was, how do you not have anger? And the response is, you have compassion and love and understanding for the misery that somebody else must be going through to do that to you. But that also doesn't mean you got to stick around. Buddhist practice is not about becoming a doormat and allowing people to treat us like crap. You can have love and forgiveness and compassion for people who've harmed you and never see them again and never talk to them again. Or you can continue to drag yourself through it for years, trying to find reasons. Yeah, it's harsh, man. I always say Buddhist practice does not make things easier, especially early on, but it makes things more real, more raw, more authentic, more genuine. People treat you like crap, leave. That wasn't specific towards you, that was a general statement. But yeah, here, and then we'll go here.
Jeff, can
Yeah.
you share with us your knowledge or your experience with universal truth? Just what you know about universal truth, or what your experience has been based on what you know. Yeah.
So the question is, can I share my experience or knowledge of universal truth or what I know? It's not much. I mean, it's not even not much. It's nothing, right? I mean, and I truly mean that. Like, there is ultimate. When I think of universal truth, one of the names of the Buddha was Tathagata. It means suchness, things as they are. And so when I think of universal truth, I think of ultimate reality. There is what's happening, and then there is our perception of what's happening. Universal truth, to me, is just what's happening. It's like there's a movie going on, and we're all watching the movie. And every single one of us is watching a completely different movie because of what's in our head, what we relate to, what we don't relate to, what we connect to, what we don't connect to, what we like, what we don't like. We see and perceive every single thing all day long differently. And what the Buddhist teachings were trying to get us to do was to kind of touch that universal truth, that ultimate reality. Now, for me as a practice, I don't wake up each day and think like, okay, is today the day that I'm going to experience ultimate reality, ultimate truth, universal truth? For me as a practice, the practice is to begin to recognize how far I am from it. Where is my ignorance? Where is my greed? Where is my craving? Where is my desire? Where are the things that are stopping me from getting remotely close to what universal truth is? Because if universal truth is like, across the street, let's just say it's across the street, I gotta get there one step at a time. And there's a lot of steps that have to happen before I get to across the street. So I have to focus on here, and here is ignorance and greed and craving and desire. I gotta abandon those and ultimately abide in a place of non-self. Zen Master Dogen, he lived from 1200 to 1253. He was the founder of the Soto Zen school. He would, his kind of one of the expressions, the title of his book is called Beyond Thinking, but he would talk about when abiding in sensation of breath, body and mind fall away. So that little teaching, which I have no idea how to experience, is the closest I can get to knowing what it might be like to experience universal truth. But still attached to body, still attached to mind, still attached to self. But trying to shave away at that a little bit each day. Yeah.
I don't want to dump on universal truth, but
Go
I
for
want to
it.
go back to the
Yeah.
question.
Oh, yeah.
before that. When you say recognizing that this other person who did something that you perceive, I think having grown up or being well trained as a people pleaser as a child, sat down and said these are the rules, but it's how I could survive. I realized I need to feel anger now and then let the anger go.
Yeah.
And that was not mentioned.
Yeah.
And to me, when you were answering somebody's, because otherwise it has affected my health.
Yes.
And my perspective of the world, etc. And now feeling the freedom to get angry and then say, okay, and then the next step could be to recognize that this person is hurting or has their set of challenges in life. But the step of allowing the anger to bubble forth seems like a critical part of mental health to me.
Yeah, and I appreciate you pointing that out. And for those who didn't hear in the back, Dana was talking about for her and her journey in her life growing up as a people pleaser, the importance of recognizing the anger and allowing that anger to bubble up and get out before. So allowing the anger, as you said, to kind of bubble up and come out before doing all that nice compassionate stuff, right? I'm just kind of paraphrasing what you said. Yeah, and I agree, and I'll come back. I think first and foremost, what I heard in that question, the anger's already there. The recognition of anger is already there. So I didn't feel the need to say, be with that anger for a while. But if one wants to be with that anger for a while, be with that anger for a while. I also think there's a balance there, and each individual is different, absolutely. What we want to be careful of, and again, I want to be very careful turning this into kind of like Western psychological, therapy type stuff, but yes, what we don't want to do is just bury and suppress and pretend those emotions aren't there. But no matter what the emotion is, the Buddhist teachings on impermanence is really important, because as you know, as the anger arises, and it is often good to see it and feel it and be with it and recognize what it is. It's also important, again, for those who might be new to Buddhist practice, that when that anger arises and it's bubbling and it's there and it's not pleasant, to not forget the impermanence piece of it, that it can and will go away. So I think, yes, each individual is different. See the anger, feel the anger, recognize it, be with it as long as you feel you need and want to, but also understand that it doesn't have to stay, and it won't stay. It may come back, right? But it'll constantly transform and change. But I do think any of the emotions are important always to become aware of them, and not just pretend like, oh, I'm just gonna, read a Buddhist book and my emotions are gonna go away. They're not, yeah.
Well, I also think part of what you can do is understand a little bit about what are you angry about, and being able to deal with that anger. Are you angry that you allowed something to happen to you over a period of years? Are you angry with another person? There's different ways in which I think you can think about compassion when you start to really delve into what is my anger really directed at.
Yeah, and again, that's why I think for me, just as like a blanket Buddhist response to anger or any of these emotions, very simple teaching the Buddha said is to recognize that anger is coming from our desire for things to be a certain way. That's it. It doesn't mean that how things are good or right or healthy or beneficial. But the anger isn't coming from the thing itself. It doesn't just come out of nowhere. Anger is an emotion that comes from our thoughts. And the thought is, I don't like this, regardless of what it is. And therefore, the anger arises. And from there, then yes, we figure out, well, how do we want to deal with that anger as it's arising? But every moment of anger is because we don't like what's happening. Yeah, and we'll do one more and close. Go ahead.
Yeah, this is switching to that, right?
Yeah, for sure.
I'd like to love to hear your perspective, diving into maybe the nuance or distinction with attachment and choice. Like, how does one really come from, and I don't even know if this is the right question, but how does one really make choice without it having some sort of attachment? Again, I don't even know if that's the real question, but the spirit of that, I'm trying to understand the nuances of it. So I'd love to just hear your thoughts.
Can you rephrase that?
Yeah, so the idea of,
Or just say it again, yeah.
like, when I make a choice, right, when I decide I'm gonna go with burrito over burger, I have attachment to burrito.
Yeah.
And so I don't know, how does one make choice without having attachment? Or is it the idea of maybe attachment is a level of choice?
No, got it. No, perfect. So the choice and the attachment are two different. The answer to your question, really, it's funny for a guy who really for 20 years never answers questions. You're just giving me questions that are. The answer to your question is just eat the burrito. Your question was choice. How do I do the choice and not have the attachment? And you use the burrito over the burger, whichever one you went to, right? So the choice is to eat the burrito, and then you want to know, how do you have the not attachment? Just eat the burrito, appreciate the burrito, be grateful for the burrito, focus on the burrito. The burger's no longer in the equation, right? It's like, you ever gamble? You ever go to Vegas? You ever play roulette?
Play some poker.
Okay, so roulette, the one where the wheel spins, the ball bounces around to go to a number. When you play that, when you're done playing, you don't look back. You just walk away, because as soon as you walk away and you look back, the number you were trying to play is going to pop up.
In that is the idea, the attachment is to the choice not chosen.
The attachment is anything other than what is present. I mean, it's a beautiful question. Let me back up, put it into context, and I'll close with this thought. I just want to kind of put also my perception, my understanding of Buddhist teachings on non-attachment. Because when you look at attachment, non-attachment, I think this is really not just for you, but for anybody who might be new. Non-attachment in Buddhist teachings is critical. And again, I'll close with this thought. Non-attachment doesn't mean that you don't care. Non-attachment, often people say detached or unattached. Non-attachment is not a severing, it's not cutting off. Non-attachment means you are not attached to any outcome whatsoever. Period. You are not attached to any outcome whatsoever. The Bodhisattva practice around giving is to give as if there's no gift, no giver, and no receiver. Any of you ever given a gift and all of a sudden it was like they didn't like it so much?
Yeah.
Right? You don't feel so good. You give a gift and they do like it. You feel better. Well, you gave the gift. Just give the gift. Non-attachment means you've given the gift. Attachment means you're expecting something back. You're expecting something in return. You want something different. So this idea, and choice to me is a little bit different. Choice isn't about, to me, in this kind of example, it's not about attachment or non-attachment. I like, in Buddhist practice, the word discernment comes up a lot. Like, we're making a discernment that says, that if there's a fire, or the stove is hot, I'm making a choice. I'm discerning, don't put my hand on the hot stove. It's not about attachment or non-attachment. It's about understanding that that's going to cause pain. So we have to make choices. But the idea behind choosing what to eat and not attaching to anything whatsoever is just to throw yourself completely. You ever read Zen Mind, Beginner's Mind? Boom. Those 200 pages will root Zen by Suzuki Roshi, Shunryu Suzuki. Zen Mind, Beginner's Mind. It's, to me, one of the two best Buddhist books out there that I always refer people to, because it helps just shatter exactly what you're talking about. Your question really is embodied in duality, in what's called the Paramitas Sutras, the Diamond Sutra, the Heart Sutra, all these types of things where you're setting up a difference between something. So in the actual choice of picking the burrito versus the hamburger, in the choice alone, you have, before you've even reached to eating, you've already set up a difference between the two. Because you were seeing a difference between the burger and the burrito, that is the reason non-attachment arises. Because you think there's something different between the two. It's just food, man. And I mean that very seriously. Like, I love the light example of the burger versus burrito because it's not this heavy, like, death, trauma, loss thing. It's like one or the other. But it's food, right? I mean, Buddhist practice, monk style, go back to you'll see this in Metaphorist if you go back to alms rounds, traditional, back to the time of the Buddha, they went door to door, so to speak. Their head was down, the bowl was up. People put food in it. The Buddha said there's 3 conditions to eat. If it was meat or anything in there, if they didn't see it be killed, if they didn't hear it be killed, if it wasn't killed specifically for them. Otherwise, whatever's in the bowl, they just ate. This was them learning the practice of non-attachment. So non-attachment happens way before. Now that I'm like talking out loud your question, the non-attachment piece happens before you've even decided what to eat. It's in the idea that you think there's a difference between the two foods. And that's a whole nother level of exploration. So that is not an answer, but it's to understand where non-attachment is coming from. It's not an after the fact. It's in your perception that there's something different between the burger and the burrito. I'll leave you confused with that. Yeah. So I'm gonna close on that. We'll join palms. May the benefit of this practice be shared with all beings in all directions. May all beings be at peace. May all be free from suffering. May any merit gained from this practice be transferred to those who need it most. All right. before you all head out, our Dharma Bum host Morgan, or are you doing, has some announcements. And as Morgan's coming up, I just want to say real quickly, for everybody who participated in the Pride Parade that walked on Saturday, everybody who helped clean up the Pride Festival on Monday, thank you, thank you, thank you. Just so proud of the Dharma Bum community for the way we really represented and supported the LGBTQ community during Pride. So thank you all for doing that.
Hi everyone, I'm tonight's host, Morgan. We opened the Dharma Bum Temple 18 years ago to introduce Buddhist practice to those who show up. Those who lead are not nuns, monks, gurus, masters, or teachers and are not looking for students. They're simply practitioners sharing their interpretation of the practice. Every night we have different classes led by different people from various Buddhist traditions. We have a recovery sangha that meets several times a week for anyone with addiction, and our food redistribution program is every Thursday at 4:30 p.m. We have classes and programs every day, and everything we offer here is always free. The full schedule is on our website and also posted in the entryway above the shoe rack. We have a lending library. If you see a book you like, feel free to borrow it and then bring it back whenever you're done with it. We also have the crystal bowl meditation on Thursday at 7, right?
Thank you, yes.
Yes, okay. Please straighten your seat or cushion before you head out. If a few people could stay to close and latch the windows, that would be helpful. Thank you for being here. We wish you well and we hope to see you again.